One of the most fondly remembered episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars was Rookies, the 5th episode of Season 1, which featured a small band of clones trying to defend an outpost on the Rishi moon from encroaching separatist forces. In the episode, the Rishi moon is established as essentially being the gateway to Kamino, but it's never really explained why it holds that status. In this video, we're going to be discussing this exact topic, exploring the significance of Rishi and its moon, as well as their local context.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Kamino, as you all surely know, was the birthplace of the Grand Army of the Republic and one of the Republic military's most vital strongholds, together with nearby Rathana, where the Kaminoans had the GAR's war machines produced. Kamino was home to the galaxy's greatest clone masters, or at least it would have been if Kamino was located inside the galaxy. In fact, this vital Republic world was not only located far beyond the borders of the Republic, but outside of the galaxy proper, suspended roughly halfway between the galactic disk and the Rishi maze, also known as Companion Aurek, the nearest satellite galaxy. Kamino was part of a string of systems suspended between the galaxy and the Rishi maze, through which ran the Zoreka string. The Zoreka string was an extremely obscure hyperspace route that was essentially the only means of travel from the galaxy to the Rishi maze, and it was also the only way of accessing Kamino, apart from the secret Kamino Rathana space lane the Kaminoans had created with S-thread boosters. And for travelers coming from the main galaxy, the Zoreka string was only accessible from one system, which lent its name to the entire satellite galaxy it provided access to, Rishi. There was only one planet with any significance in the Rishi system, and you'll never guess what it was called. Rishi was home to a pre-agricultural sentient species known as the Rishi, feather-covered avians who lived high in the planet's mountains in communal nest communities. There were also settlers on Rishi, the bulk of whom were either members of a religious fundamentalist colony or were criminals exploiting the colonists' tolerance. They lived in the planet's humid lowlands and kept their distance from the Rishi, who saw the Outlanders as foolish for choosing the worst parts of the planet to live in. Neither community had much galactic significance, and Rishi would have been a total backwater if it weren't for the Zoreka string. The Zoreka string also meant that Rishi became vastly more important in the context of the Clone Wars. It was a choke point that controlled all access to and from Kamino, at least as far as the Separatists and most of the Republic knew. It was for this reason that the Republic built a listening post on Rishi's moon, and it was for this reason that the Confederacy tried to take the moon and later Rishi itself. The CIS was in a unique position to do this too, because Rishi was located in a separatist sector. During the Clone Wars, the galaxy was largely split along sector lines, as those were the lines along which regions received Senate representation. Most sectors were either entirely loyalist or entirely separatist, but some sectors were much more complicated. Sometimes, only a small part of a sector would choose to secede, or a small part would choose to remain loyal to the Republic, or the sector government joined the Confederacy. The Abrion Sector, in which Rishi was located, fell into the latter camp. The Abrion Sector was located in the outer rim in the remote southern slice, near the end of the Corellian Run. This part of the galaxy was sparsely inhabited, and most of its sectors were either only loosely affiliated with the Republic or were under overt Hutt control. The Abrion Sector was one of the only sectors in the regions that was closely integrated with the Republic, in part due to two major hyperspace routes that ran through it: the Manda Merchant Run, which ran from Rishi to Molivar at the far end of the sector, and the Triellis Trade Route, which also passed through Molivar on its way to the periphery of Hutt space. Despite its remoteness, the Abrion Sector was vital to the Republic, mostly because it contained about 200 key agricultural worlds. This number included Yukio, one of the most productive agricultural planets in the galaxy. These systems produced a huge portions of the galaxy's food, which was exported in massive volumes to support urbanized worlds of the core and colonies. Despite being the breadbasket of the Republic, however, these agricultural worlds were mostly poor and bereft of political power, much to the ire of the people, who, correctly, saw this arrangement as exploitation. Because of these grievances, the Abrion Sector seceded from the Republic during the Separatist crisis. As Senator Isu Rotsino, the sector's representative, put it, the ag producers of the Abrion have lived for decades with few options and limited control of the goods we provide. Now though, we've found appreciative markets without the restrictive bureaucracy of the Republic. The secession of the Abrion agri-worlds greatly strengthened the CIS, bringing the Confederacy closer to self-sufficiency. It also posed a problem for the core and colonies, which the Abrion worlds refused to supply with food unless they also joined the Confederacy. The wealthy worlds of the core weren't at risk of starvation, but there was nonetheless a panic and protest on many prominent worlds over shortages of select food items that had been imported from Abrion, causing the Republic to rush to establish new contracts with loyalist agri-worlds to pick up the slack. This only strengthened the dislike many Rimworlds had for the core and their inclination to separatism, however, as many Rimmers saw this as the Republic catering to its spoiled wealthy instead of dealing with the real problems the galaxy's fringe was facing. As Senator Dalmeyer of Moncala artfully put it, Abrion Sector goes without milk and bread for 2 months, and it's the price of being in a remote region. Comenorans can't get their Vulture sprig garnishes, and it's a calamity. Not all of the Abrion Sector seceded with the agri-worlds, however. While Yukio, Molivar, and Abrion Major became separatist strongholds, Rishi and some of the coreward portions of the sector remained loyal to the Republic. This meant that, when the Clone Wars broke out, the Abrion Sector became a battlefield. Much like in the neighbouring Groll Sector and the Arcanis Sector beyond it, much of the sector was split along the Trialis trade route, with the route only passing into separatist territory near Molivar. Another battle line was drawn between Rishi and Yukio, both of which became battlefields over the course of the Clone Wars. The Republic's control of the loyalist portions of the Abrion Sector were tenuous, so much so that Abrion was usually lumped in with other separatist sectors instead of being classified as a divided region for most of the war. That made the Republic's Rishi Moon outpost even more important. Not only was Rishi the choke point that controlled access to Kamino, but it was just a short trip up the Manda Merchant Run from separatist-controlled Yukio. The Confederacy could attack Rishi at any time, and at many points in the war, it could have done so without the Republic even getting wind of such an attack until it was too late, or at least it would have been able to do so if the Rishi Moon outpost hadn't been there. Without the base on the Rishi Moon and the sole squad of clones manning it, General Grievous could have, and would have, cut Kamino off from the Republic before the Republic even knew what was happening. They had to maintain constant vigilance in the system and refuse to let the Confederacy gain even the slightest foothold. When the Separatists attacked Rishi itself in 21 BBY, for example, the Republic fought tooth and nail to defend it. All of this ceased to be a problem sometime in 20 BBY when the Republic recaptured the Abrion Sector in its entirety. They would go on to use it as a forward base in the Siskine Theatre during the Outer Rim sieges. The region would continue providing food to the Republic and later the Empire, as well as the New Republic, even becoming one of its top 5 suppliers. All of this goes to show that just because something seems insignificant doesn't mean that it is. The squad on the Rishi Moon may have seen their posting as a waste of time, but their job was more vital for the survival of the Grand Army of the Republic than they knew. That's our look at the Rishi Moon and the broader Abrion Sector, an important battlefield of the Clone Wars. But what do you think? Would you like to see videos about other regions in the galaxy? Free to post your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.